The first cheese is the Camembert. There we go. This was 2000. We decided to go with a recipe that my dad used in the 1950s when he first started out. It's kind of a non-stabilized, very traditional Camembert. And there aren't many of that type out there anymore. A lot of them have moved on to other features, like their mold rind on the outside is a lot thicker, or a lot of companies use thermophilic cultures, which increase, I should say, which has a positive effect on the texture, but a negative effect, I find, on the flavor. And so we tweaked and we tried to incorporate like the traditional with the modern. So this is our traditional Camembert, and we decided we want to stick with that. So it has a thinner rind of the mold, and therefore it's not quite as musty. It has just a really nice nutty flavor. As it ages, oh, there's this lovely picture. I love bloomy rinds on racks. They look like little clouds, and they're my favorite thing. So unfortunately, as soon as you touch them, of course, then you have that fingerprint indent, and oh well. But yeah, and once they're wrapped, but yeah, they look like little clouds when they're in the aging room. I love that. It's mild in taste, and it's a very approachable cheese for people new to soft ripened cheeses. This is our go-to cheese that we bring to where we know people don't know anything about that type of cheese. This is, we noticed a lot of people are moving to Colorado right now, and we noticed these communities buy the Camembert first because it's safe, and maybe I need to say that maybe we're not marketing masters, but we stuck with a name that people are familiar with. The names of some of our other cheeses are maybe a little bit out there and not quite as approachable to people who don't know what it is. So we definitely had to work on those decisions that we made sometimes long ago, and we had to learn that what works and what doesn't work, but who doesn't have these experiences as a business owner, I guess. So yes, the Camembert is our flagship in a way, and a standard cheese in a way. So I think it is a good addition to a lot of delis and cheese cases. Oh, here it is, paired with quince. Anything fruity. Actually, I have to say, the Camembert goes with really most everything. Whether you go with mustard, or whether you go with fruit, or with honey, or with spicy, you can never go wrong. The creaminess of a Camembert will always support the food and drink that you choose.
I think of Camembert, I think of Normandy, you know, so, you know, I think about ciders and apples and that. And so that's where I go. I like to stay kind of traditional when we get into a lot of these pairings, even though I have jumped out in the past, but this is from Cigar City Cider in Ybor. This is a local cider company. And this is just an English dry cider. And so it's got a little bit of sparkling to it, but it's not, you know, too much. But for the regular pairing, I went with fig spread, you know, and Perseverance Society does a really nice little fig spread, and it's transportation. I'm using the Effie's, and this is their rye cake. I really like to have something a little more structured with the cheese, so gives me some depth into it, but you can see that it's got, you know, really simple to be able to dress up. You get 2 or 3 little bites out of it, and then pair it up with a little bit of cider. Pretty simple.
Very simple. The
Yeah.
Camembert is truly my, enjoy. The Camembert is truly my favorite sandwich cheese. And sometimes people look at me funny as if they don't put cheese on sandwiches. And I think that is more of a cultural thing, because here I find people treat soft ripened cheeses as a specialty, right? As a special occasion cheese. Whereas in Europe, of course, this is one of the main cheeses that you have. And yes, it is just you slice it, put it on your sandwich, and you can replace butter with it. It adds more flavor to it without being overwhelming.
It's very nice, very creamy, buttery, and tastes exactly the way it should as a beautiful Camembert.
Thank you. So then the next one is, we're gonna cover the ColoRouge. So once we had dialed in the Camembert and we were established, my heart is washed rind cheeses. So we knew we wanted to take this on and make it a soft ripened cheese. And that was, you know, in a way, not really done before. And so that was kind of cool. So I have a wheel here also. All of our wheels right now are unfortunately not very aged, because with COVID, we obviously stopped production. And then right now actually the orders are up. And so we are just flying through stuff right now, which is great. And so all of what I have in house is very young. So none of that creamy stuff, unfortunately. So we are washing the outside with Brevibacterium linens, which is your regular washed rind culture. We are also adding Geotrichum back in to dry off the surface faster, because we didn't want to make Limburger, although that is always still on my list too for some reason. A good Limburger is something really yummy. And for all the cheesemongers out there who will watch this video, I know there's the one Limburger sold here by Sankt Mung. My dad actually used to work for them and made the Limburger. He was responsible for it. But the people that live in that region, when they buy this Limburger, and you know, it's a special kind of paper. It has like that silk paper within the metal, gold metal paper. What they do is they clean the Limburger before they eat it, and people just don't know that here, and so they eat the whole grittiness of the outside with. But Germans don't do that, so they take a butter knife and just scrape off all sides and discard that and just eat it then afterwards. All right, that was the side tidbit. So anyways, we didn't want to make Limburger. We wanted to make a soft ripened washed rind cheese that is drier on the outside, so when you touch it, you don't walk around for the rest of the day with stinky fingers. And I think we have accomplished that. It also ages wonderfully, has won plenty of awards, and has absolute fans of people that say, oh, I leave it in my fridge till after the last date on the package, because I love it when it's old. And really, the ColoRouge, there's no end date really for that cheese. It just ages really well and becomes super creamy. The pairing of it is a little bit more tricky, just because it is a strong cheese. It's a more intense cheese, and therefore we will have to, you know, be careful with what we pair it with. So one time I was at a craft brewing, it wasn't a conference, but get together, and I was on a panel, and I said, well, I would pair the ColoRouge with a very light Budweiser. And you could just hear the audience go like, oh my God, I can't believe what she said. So if you want to stay in the craft beer area, a light lager would definitely be the way to go. It doesn't take away from the cheese, and the sparkliness, the CO2 of beer scrubs your tongue enough to make it just perfect and refreshing. And so you have to stay away from sour beers. They don't work at all. You can have the occasional dark malty beer that works. For wines, because it's pretty much the same thing, I would go with champagne. Champagne and washed rind cheeses are really heaven. So those would be my suggestions for it. For food flavor, for food additions, dark fruits work well. You can't go with citrus fruits, but blueberries, figs, any of those fruits that don't have a lot of acidity to them.
Well, you know, I thought about the same thing with the beer. I really wanted to go something light. And when you're pairing it with additional items, and that's what I'm doing here, is I needed something a little bit more robust. So I went with Anchor Steam with their beer, which is a California common. Little maltiness. You can see that it's got a lot of malt here, but it's also a very light beer in originality. It's not that intense. So what I decided to do is I wanted to pair this up with something that would give it a little bit more intensity of flavor, because it's got so much butter, it's got so much richness to it that it can stand up to something very savory. So I didn't really want to take it to the sweet realm. I wanted to take it to something a little bit more meaty wise. And so I went with a pate, a Mousse truffle, and it is chicken and pork. And then to kind of balance it out, I got these little sweet peppers. And they're really, really kind of cool, where they give you a little bit of a tanginess to them. And it kind of balances out the pate with the truffle. So that was the direction that I went.
Totally fine. I think it all works. There's sometimes, you know, occasionally I work with craft brewers here in the area, up and down the Front Range. So Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs. And we put up like a beer tasting event, just like what we do here, you know, and they supply the beverage, whether it is a distillery or a brewery or a winery, and I bring the cheese and we talk about just food and all of it, and it's fun. And it's interesting though how you can learn about what works and what doesn't work. And so when I cook with the ColoRouge, I actually add it to my mac and cheese, right? Because mac and cheese is, you know, it's kind of boring. There is not much flavor to it, I find. And so if I add a stinkier, smellier, just yummier, more aromatic cheese to it, it just has a little bit more oomph, and then a little bit goes a long way also. So I have added it to my lasagnas, just same thing, because mozzarella is just very plain, and that way you just get a little flavor to it.
So we have a question from Kate, and she asked, do you add Penicillium candidum or to your ColoRouge, or just geotrichum with B. linens?
Just the geotrichum. Sometimes, you know, obviously we have new ideas, and we wanted to make an ash cheese for quite some time. And we're thinking about, well, where do we put the ash? You know, there's the traditional line in the middle, and we're like, well, how are we going to pull that one off? Because as you have seen before, we dump our cheeses, you know, down the chute into the forms. Like, how would you do that? You would have to stack two cheeses on top of each other with a ash line in between, and or how are we going to go about it? Then we talked about, you know, having the ash on the outside, but only on the top and the bottom. And yeah, that lasted for about half a day, because that's pretty much impossible. It just runs down on the side, And it's like, all right, it's either all or nothing kind of thing. And so we decided that would be cool. Since it is also in a way a wash drying cheese, we also added the geotrichum to it, which makes it then more gray than black. It starts out black, but turns gray when the mold grows and starts its wrinkles, which is a lovely feature of the geotrichum. And the fun part about the ash is it changes the pH of the cheese. So in the beginning, you know, it's your cheese, and but as it ages over the course of weeks, it becomes like this dolce sweet, this super creamy, extra creamy type of cheese. And it is because the pH is lifted back up by the ash, which is a base, and your cheese is slightly on the acidic side, and which makes it a wonderful experience. The Ashley has probably won the most medals of all of our cheeses. All of them have won something, but the Ashley is definitely with the ColoRouge up on top there. And it is also difficult for introducing it to new customers, however, because of its look. And so we get, you know, a few times a year the phone call of oh my God, my cheese is black, it's rotten, what am I doing now, can you replace it? And we usually ask people to send in pictures so we can judge, you know, what went wrong or where they're coming from. And 95% of the time it's just somebody's knocking on your door. So that is the story with the Ashley. We had to do quite some research about which ash to use, because we didn't want our customers to have, you know, the gritty ash, the campfire experience where you drop your hot dog in the campfire, you dig it back out because that's all you have to eat that night, and then you eat it anyways, and it's like crunchy in your teeth. So we had a few ash products like that, and we're like, yeah, no, that's a no-go. So eventually we were lucky enough, and it all turned out fine. I don't cook as much with the Ashley just because once it is melting, it has like that gray tinge. It's just not as visually appealing as the ColoRouge with the orange red. And so here it is on a peach, and it is melted, and that's just how it's so yummy at that stage. Yes, it has a lot of lovers and followers also. I find it goes well with some brown and red ales. It goes really well with a Merlot or a Malbec.
I decided to go with a lager, and this is more or less a Vienna style lager. This is Yuengling, and this is a local beer also, and this is their traditional lager. It's got a lot of, again, that nice maltiness, but it also has the traditional light flavor to it. So I wanted to tame it down a little bit. So I got Savannah Bee Honey. This is their Orange Blossom, and I thought that would be really fun with it. And the cracker, because it has that tanginess and the sweetness, and with the honey, I went with a Firehook, and this is their rosemary and sea salt. So a little bit of rosemary with this, a little bit of honey, and then of course a little malty lager.
But I think overall it's still a cheese that can be, where you can find plenty of foods and beverages to go with. It's not super specific. I find the ColoRouge a lot harder to pair with. Last but not least is the Truffello. The Truffello is a Camembert base with truffle bits inside, Italian black truffles. Now there is about 80% of all people go totally gaga for truffles. They love it so much, which is great. So that cheese is definitely for them. It is mild. We don't add so many truffles that it is totally overwhelming. We kept with our standard policy of making the cheeses approachable. And so a lot of people love the truffle cheese, and it has a lot of friends. And then there's this fun fact, I think is just awesome. And then there's about 10-20% of people that hate truffles, right? They would not even go near. They taste it and spit it out. There's like nothing that you can make to convince them otherwise, which is fine. And then there's about 1 or 2% of people who can't even taste truffles. They taste it, they look at you, and they're like, I don't really know what I'm looking for. Like, what is it supposed to taste like? So for us, the truffle, it has an earthy flavor, not so much mushroomy, right? There's a cheese out there by Champignon, actually. I remember being there when they made it. And hated every minute of it when they added those mushrooms to the cheese. And so that is the only mushroom cheese that I personally know. But then there's a few truffle cheeses out there. But the truffles are, even though they're considered a mushroom, I find them to be more earthy than mushroomy. And so anyways, I find that's just interesting how some people cannot even taste them. And for pairings, truffles are the truffle camembert is really great on steaks, on pasta, on potatoes, like your regular baked potato. When we pair them with, like at events, with just a cracker, we usually add a drop of honey to it. Truffles and honey are a wonderful combination. It just goes so well. I really don't know why, but it goes so well, and people have shown us that they love that also. And for beers, I love meat because of the honey with it, but I think it is very flexible and can go with lots of different beers and wines. I don't think it has to be that specific.
I love truffle. I think it's a great addition. And one of the things, I was snacking while you were talking, and getting a balance of the truffle and the cheese is very important, because I don't want to eat the truffle and I don't want to just have the camembert. So getting a nice balance is really amazing. And that's exactly what this has a really nice balance of both of those. So the direction that I decided to go is because, again, I want something a little bit more oomphy with this, because this can stand up. You know, not all cheeses can stand up to whatever you want to pair it with. So you have to limit that. I think honey's a really good choice. I love truffle and honey. But what I went with here is I went with some charcuterie. I thought that would be, you know, a little meatiness with this, because the truffles add in. You know, I mean, how many times do we have truffle charcuterie on here? And this is spotted trotter. And this is their Soppressata. I really love that. It's just such a simple, you know, I mean, building this is really fun, because I'm using the brewer's crackers, you know, just regular sea salt. Doesn't have to be anything really big. So I got a little bit of brewer's crackers. I got a little Soppressata. And then I'm using the Kalamata olives. And they add a lot of saltiness. But the beauty of the cheese is that you get all the butter flavors from the camembert, you get all the truffle, and so it's really a nice kind of combination meal. You know, this is like you know, a mini lunch. And I'm pairing this up with an IPA, which
Yes.
you know, that hoppiness in here really cuts into everything and just kind of adds hops to me are more like rosemary. They're like herbs, and they really bring out more of the flavors. And this is Green Bench, again, another local beer. And this is Sunshine City. We're Florida, so, you know, 700 and some days straight of sun. So, you know, there.
The Truffello is on the cheese board of a lot of restaurants here in the ski country, and also here in town. And that's exactly what they pair it with too. They have their olives and their charcuterie. So you nailed it right on the head.
When we're building cheese boards now, we're not building cheese boards for 20 people. We're building cheese boards for 2 to 4 people. So
Yes.
it's really nice because we can really step up the quality of the cheeses. We can step up the accompaniments to it. You can really build a nice, you know, this would be 4 different cheese boards all set up. And, you know, tonight, I'm going to move this one with the charcuterie over, and that'll be kind of like our appetizers tonight. And then probably tomorrow night with the honey, that'll be a little bit of a dessert, you know. And then, so, you know, the cheeses really lend themselves very well to being able to create any direction that you want to go. And that's what I love about cheese boards, is that you're not so much of trying to create something unique. It's more or less taking that and complementing it and being able to use that, just like integrating it into a recipe. You're just integrating it into a nice little form for yourself or to share. And that's really what's so fun about, you know, putting the cheese boards together, because they, you know, are really so easy. And a thing that I want to tell you about your cheeses is the portions, the size of that is absolutely perfect for cheese boards. And being able to sometimes, believe it or not, I may not eat the entire piece tonight. And so being able to save a little bit of this and that for the next day or a couple more days is fabulous. And I want to thank you for the extra piece that I can let it run out a little longer, a couple more weeks, and open one up. So get a little bit more. So that's greatly appreciated.
Great. I'm glad you like the cheeses. Oh, I wanted to point out that we also make the peppered, right? That's the 5th round. It's a Camembert with green peppercorns. And then we make, we started making, this is actually a funny story. We started making cheddar cheese curds. We always got phone calls from people that had moved here from Wisconsin. And they're like, oh, you guys, you're a cheese company, are you making cheddar cheese curds? They, of course, don't know that you need a different equipment for the hard cheeses than the soft ripened cheeses. So we always had to say, no, we can't make it. Well, eventually we found a little cute cheese vat from Minnesota that we got. And then we started making cheddar cheese curds, and people just, they come here. And the stores are not taking them at this point, or I should say the big stores. We have definitely are in some of the small local cheese stores and CSAs and stuff. So we sometimes sell them out the door here. Of course, 2020 is always a little bit different. And we do the sidewalk sale. And then we have great support throughout the town, which brings me to my next point. Is we were so fortunate in March when everything just shut down that people here in Colorado were just very much embracing the local and the super local, or whatever it's called, and embracing us. And I mean, it really warms my heart and almost brings me to tears, because I'm so grateful for them that they kept us in business for those 2 months that were definitely like not knowing when things would open back up and how things will look like when they do open up. And so big shout out to all of the Colorado community. They are driving to places they have never driven before, just to pick up local products that are not in all stores, and they make an effort. And that is really what keeps small businesses in business.
Okay, so we have some more questions.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's a kind of a statement question from Carrie, and it's I like flavored rinds. I am not a fan of unflavored rinds and remove them myself. But it is a mess. Wondering if there's a trick to removing a rind.
Okay. I don't have a good answer. There's no trick. And also, soft ripened cheese rinds are meant to be eaten. So that doesn't mean you have to, of course. However, the size of our wheels are such a size that once you take the rind off, you know, you're losing a big portion of flavor and just volume in general. So maybe you would be better off buying, you know, a big brie wheel, because then the proportions don't matter as much anymore. Or you try to eat the rind. Does that answer the question?
Okay.
But it's definitely a living surface and it's meant to be eaten. It is flavorful, and however, there are people out there obviously who don't like the rind of soft ripened cheeses. And I don't have an answer. No trick. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So for those that are interested in getting your cheeses that are not currently local, you have e-commerce and gift packs.
That's right. So please visit our website, MouCo.com. We do have a gift pack that we, you know, they're available all year round. We try to create them in a way that they are good for Valentine's Day, Christmas, and in between. It falls into our color scheme. We do ship, however, as you all know, if you're a consumer, refrigerated shipping is quite pricey, but it is available. So please contact us. At Christmas time, we gift wrap and ship to whatever location. And so sometimes, you know, we have customers, they just drop their addresses off pretty much and say, all right, ship 2 there and 3 there and 1 there. So we look after that for those special occasions, or if you just need a hostess gift and such, or any other amount, of course. We work with distributors, of course, if you're a cheese shop and they pick up the shipping, then if you can get it through distributors, local distributors. And so, yeah, please visit our website, MouCo.com. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. I think you had some fantastic ideas with the food pairings, and I want to thank everybody who's watching it now or later. And, you know, if you have any more questions, please email me, xoxo@mouco.com, and I will answer the questions.
All righty, that's great. And the pairings that I have will be on the YouTube channel, Michael Landis Cheese. So you can look on there and find them along with everything that we did today. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time today. And you have such lovely cheeses. I just adore them, have always. And I'm going to be enjoying this the rest of the evening. So I want to thank you so much.
You're so gracious. Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you.
All right. Well, good luck on your adventures there, and take care, be safe, and we'll keep in touch and maybe do something right around the holidays.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. You take care. All right.
Enjoy those pooches. Bye.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.